So this has been an interesting path this game has taken, and sort of an interesting uh, curve that my enjoyment of it has followed throughout the course of development thus far. So when I first started playing this game in the closed beta, I was really taken by it and thought, okay, this they have something here. They're on to something with this game. And of course, being a big fan of Splash Damage's prior work on titles like Brink, I was very excited to check this game out. And then shortly after getting into the closed beta, I can't even remember exactly when this was that they sent out the wave of keys that I actually got in on. They made some changes to the game. The game kind of went through some rough patches with regard to network code and stability and balancing issues and that sort of thing, and it kind of really soured me on it. But I decided, it's not really fair to make any judgments about the game until it, gets closer to being done. And so basically what's been happening is every so often they'll put out a new patch for it, and I'll check it out. And let's say like for the past couple of months, I was pretty unimpressed with what I saw. For the most part, whenever a new patch would come out, I'd give it a try, play a couple rounds, just kind of find the same issues sort of repeating themselves over and over again, and kind of just really bummed me out. But thankfully, I stuck with it. And actually, about a week ago, they released a patch that was sort of the first patch in preparation for the start of the open beta. And I have to say, I feel like this game has done a real turnaround for me in these past couple of patches that they've put out. I feel like it's finally starting to come together in those really difficult to quantify dynamics that make for a good first-person shooter and a good cooperative team-based shooter. And I'm actually kind of excited now. I think they've made a really good decision with a lot of the things they've done in terms of tweaks and refinements to the game, and the timing really couldn't be better with this being the start of open beta. I feel like we're finally seeing the game begin to move towards what it can eventually be. I'm not going to go so far as to say the game is, fantastic or amazing or whatever, but I will say I'm way more excited to be playing this game than I have been throughout the development process that I've seen since a few waves back in closed beta. So I thought it might be a good idea for me to just give you a quick little rundown on kind of some of the basics of the game before I actually jump into a match. A, that'll give people time to get onto the stream if they want to, and B, it's just a good um, sort of preamble to what's about to occur. So the things that are happening will make a bit more sense with some context. So basically, you've got a couple of different game modes in place in this open beta version. So you got your standard objective-based mode, which basically has you play on offense or defense for a single round. And then you've got this stopwatch mode, which is kind of a hallmark of Splash Damage, and it's something that was, prominently featured in Brink as well. This idea of uh, playing both as offense and defense, and whichever team completes the objectives faster wins. So these matches tend to be a lot more objective focused, and they also tend to be a lot longer. So we may save the stopwatch match for the end of the stream, just because I know those from experience that those tend to take quite a bit longer to play. Um, and then also you'll notice there's kind of a teaser here for this new mode that's coming soon, which seems to be more of like a Counter-Strike kind of elimination type mode where it seems like maybe you're getting one or a limited number of lives per round and having to fight with that in mind, which seems like a would be an interesting option to have added to a game like this. But in case you haven't figured it out by now, what Dirty Bomb essentially is a team-based, objective-based first-person shooter. And that's really, for a lot of people, I think all they're going to need to know about the fundamental premise of the game, because there are a lot of other games out there, not the least of which being some of Splash Damage's former titles that fit into that mold very neatly. And this game doesn't really do a lot to break from that mold. It's more of just a refinement or a natural evolution of kind of what's been going on with this style of gameplay for a while now. Now, that's not to say that that's a bad thing. Far from it. And of course, these guys having lots of experience with doing a game like this, they certainly have the pedigree to do something along these lines, better than I would say most developers have a chance to. Um, but unfortunately, we're getting a little bit of a network error here, so I can't show you one of the things I wanted to show you, which was the missions. So basically, at any given time, you can have 3 active missions that appear in this area normally. But of course, because it's launch day, you know, issues. But I think I recall what mine were. Uh, there was one to play 5 rounds with the Skyhammer Merc in the lineup. There's another one to get a certain amount of support XP, and another one to get a certain amount of combat XP. So the whole distinction between support and combat XP is actually kind of interesting because uh, when you play a role like I typically tend to play in a game like this, like a medic or an engineer or something along those lines, oftentimes your contributions to the gameplay aren't sort of well represented or well recorded. And I feel like this game, more so than a lot of others that I've played in this sort of subgenre, does a good job of rewarding you for doing things like repairing objectives, destroying objectives, um, reviving teammates, distributing ammo and health packs and that sort of thing. And it's kind of cool that they actually make some of these missions, these things that give you boosts to your in-game currency. They kind of tie them to those behaviors by splitting out the XP between combat and support. Um, which again, for someone like me who I typically tend to play a medic in games like this, I think that's a really attractive, really cool uh, way to approach things. So I'll look here at the barracks screen briefly and just kind of show you that at any given time in the game, what you're going to have is the 2 characters that you unlock for playing the demo, which are Aura and Skyhammer, here in the upper left and lower right of the sort of character matrix. And then it seems how they're going to handle this is every week or so, there'll be a rotation of which mercs are available to play for free. So right now it looks like Fletcher and Artie are the mercs that everybody can play without having to spend any in-game currency. So the interesting thing about this to keep in mind is that while this is a free-to-play game and you absolutely can spend real money on it, it seems as though most of the best stuff in the game, aside from really cosmetic and sort of vanity type stuff, can be unlocked with in-game currency that you can earn just from normally playing the game. Now, as you might imagine, it takes a long time to earn in-game currency through normal gameplay. They've actually buffed that a little bit since the stage and closed beta that I entered in. It used to be that the XP and in-game currency came at a real trickle, so even if you played, say, hours and hours of the game, you wouldn't really get a lot from that in terms of those 2 things. But it seems as though they've improved that at least a bit. I still think it's probably a bit low for my taste, but it certainly doesn't seem as stingy as it did in the closed beta. So you might be thinking to yourself, so what's the point of having a squad of 3 mercs? Well, the idea is that when you go into a battle, you can actually have any of the 3 mercs in your squad on each deployment. So basically every time you die and go to respawn, you can change which merc you're actually going to spawn as. So if you wanted to say come in 1 spawn or 1 life as a medic, come in another life, say as this Fletcher guy who's really good at repairing objectives and completing objectives, you can do that by having these people in your squad to choose from. Now again, you're limited to 3 of them, so you can only have 3 at a time. but that's also why they always have 2 available on this timer, so that you always have somebody to add to your squad, even if you didn't unlock any of the other mercs in the game. As you can see, I haven't here. So what I have been doing instead of unlocking mercs with my in-game currency is I've actually been focusing on the medic here, the aura medic. As you can see, I've got some loadout cards, and this is kind of one of the other big mechanisms of this game. And the idea behind this is you can unlock these crates, which you either get from gameplay or spending in-game currency or real-world money, and in these crates you get a card. And as you can see, these cards are tiered basically by metal, right? So here we have a couple silver cards, some bronze cards. I believe this is a lead card, or that might be an iron card. No, I think this is a lead card because I think the iron cards have 2 perks on them. And then this is a lead card, or a starter card, I think. So the thing with these is the lead cards can be traded up to iron, the iron cards can be traded up to copper, copper can be traded up to silver, silver to gold, and gold to a new level that they've added called cobalt. I also have, from being in the beta, from being in the closed beta, I have what's called an obsidian card, which is basically like a high-end version of one of these cards, which I can probably actually show that in the barracks here if I go to loadouts. That's it. So yeah, here's the one obsidian card that I have. So this is kind of like one of the more tricked out versions of this mercenary. And how it actually works is you pick the mercenary that's going to be on your squad, and then you attach a card to that merc, and that dictates what weapons and what abilities that mercenary has. So actually one of the problems I've been having in the game with the time that I've been spending with it so far is that certain cards have certain weapons associated with them. And me playing as the medic, what I've found is that I really like cards that have SMGs attached to them, such as these 2 coppers or bronze that I have, but I really am not a fan of the shotgun based cards. So even though I have 2 silvers for this character, I'm actually currently playing with the bronze cards because they actually have SMGs on them, or this one in particular because it has an SMG on it. And what I've actually been doing is just saving these silver cards so that eventually I can try to trade them up for a gold card for this character and hopefully get an SMG on that. So for right now, these are just kind of sitting idle, waiting to be traded up to the next level. And I'll show you real quick how that mechanic works.
Yada yada, heals the ill, shoots the healthy. Are we done?
No, we're not done, woman. I'm going to show these people how to trade up cards. Don't be sassy with me. All right. So as you can see, this is the trade up screen. So you have lead cards, which you can trade up to this iron level. Again, iron cards to the bronze, bronze to silver, silver to gold. So if I wanted to get a gold card for this character, for example, I'd have to trade the 2 silvers that I already have, plus 2 more, which of course I don't have yet, and then 4,000 in-game credits. So as you can see, that's not something that's necessarily easily going to happen. That's something that's going to take quite a bit of time at the rate that you accumulate credits in the game. And actually, this is a good representation, like the cards I have now.
Healings, hell, it ain't no game. Serious business.
Okay, chill, Aura. I'm trying to show the people the game. You don't have to be freaking out constantly. All right, so the bottom line to it is the cards you see here are basically the fruits of me playing in the closed beta over the past couple of months. Now, granted, I haven't been playing every day or necessarily even for a ton of time. I think I maybe have 30 hours in this game total to get to this point. But keep in mind that this is with me taking all of the in-game money that I've earned and putting it into getting these cards. I haven't unlocked any of the other mercenaries or anything like that. I've just been focusing on trying to get this medic, leveled up with a decent card, with a decent weapon, with decent perks. And that's something to keep in mind. It's putting many hours or several hours into the game. This is kind of what I've gotten. Now I will say, as of the last few patches, it seems like some of the cards that you get from chests are a little less stingy. Like most of the chests that I've opened during closed beta, they would usually have lead cards in them, and very occasionally you would get an iron card. But actually, since last week's patch, I opened a case and actually got this bronze Vasily card, which is the first bronze that I've gotten just from opening a case. And I'd say realistically, I've probably opened 60 or 70 cases in the game so far, and like I say, most of those, I'd say 50 of those were lead cards, maybe even 55 of them, maybe 5 or 10 iron cards, and then now this one copper that I managed to get, or bronze, sorry. I keep confusing bronze and copper, but you know what I'm saying.